Today we are going to draw the Lewis structure of some polyatomic ions like sulfate and phosphate ions using formal charge. Let's start with sulfate ion, SO4, and it has a charge of 2 minus. Now if we look at the periodic table, we'll see sulfur and oxygen belong to group 16A. So sulfur has an atomic number of 16. So let's count the number of valence electron of sulfate ion. So 6 plus 6 for sulfur, 6 valence electron, plus 6 for oxygen, therefore oxygen, and plus 2 electrons because it has a charge of 2 minus, equals to 6 4s are 24, 30, 32 valence electrons. Now if we draw the structure, Lewis structure of sulfate ions, and then we will confirm the structure by using the formal charge or calculating the formal charge. So sulfur in the middle, one oxygen at the top, another oxygen at the bottom, and then one oxygen here, another oxygen this side. Now you'll see there are two double bonds and two single bond. Now let's do the number of electrons. So 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, here 1 2 3 4 5 6, and at the top one 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now here you'll see that sulfur has two double bonds and two single bond. That means it has more than 8 electrons. So if we look at the periodic table and see the group number, we'll see that sulfur comes in group 16. Sulfur comes in group 16, and since it comes in group 16, sulfur has an expanded octet, so it can have more than 8 electrons. So therefore we used double bond and double bond. Now this is the structure of Lewis structure of sulfate ion. Let's confirm the structure by working on the formal charge. So again, if you look at the formula to find out the formal charge, number of valence electron minus electrons in lone pair plus half the number of bonding electrons. So let's find out or calculate the formal charge of sulfur element first. So sulfur has 6 valence electrons minus electrons lone pair. There are no lone pairs over here, so 0 plus half the number of bonding electrons. So how many bonding electrons are there? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. So 12 over here. So 6 minus 6 equals to 0. So the formal charge of sulfur is 0. Let's now take the oxygen. So we can put the oxygen as oxygen 1, oxygen 2, oxygen 3, and oxygen 4. So let's take oxygen 1. Now the number of valence electron of oxygen is 6 minus, now if you look at the lone pairs. How many lone pairs does oxygen 1 have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 electrons in the lone pair plus half the number of bonding electrons. So how many electrons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. So 6 minus 6 equals to 0. So oxygen number 1 is 0, and we'll see oxygen number 3 is similar to oxygen number 1. So we can also write oxygen 3 equals to 0. Now let's take oxygen 2. Oxygen number 2. Valence number of valence electron 6 minus number of lone pairs of electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 plus half the number of bounding electrons. So 2. So 6 minus 7 equals to minus 1. So here again what do we see is oxygen 1 and oxygen 3 are similar. So we can write down, sorry, this was oxygen 2 and oxygen 4 were similar. So oxygen 4 is also minus 1. So we have minus 1 for double bond oxygen. For single bond oxygen we have minus 1 and minus 1, and for oxygen 1 and oxygen 3, that is double bond, we have 0 and 0, and sulfur is again 0. So the charge, overall charge on sulfate ion is minus 1, that is 2 minus. So this structure is closest to the correct Lewis structure. Now let us do the next example, that is phosphate ion. So PO4, and it has a charge of 3 minus. Now if we look at the periodic table, we will see phosphorus has 15 electrons, that is atomic number phosphorus is 15, and oxygen again we know that it has 16 atomic number. So phosphorus valence electron will be 5 plus oxygen again 6 electrons valence electron, and there are 4 oxygen, so 4, and plus 3 for 3 negative charge equals to 6 4 is 24 plus 5 29 30 31 32. So it also has 32 valence electrons. Now let's draw the Lewis structure of phosphate, and then we will confirm to the closest correct structure of the phosphate ion by using the formal charge. So let's draw the structure of Lewis structure of phosphate ion. So we can put phosphorus in the center and one oxygen at the top, single bond oxygen, another oxygen side, another oxygen at the right side, and double bond and oxygen at the bottom. So there are 4 oxygen and it has a charge of 3 negative. So this is the Lewis structure, but we also have to show the number of electrons. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. The next one 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and double bond oxygen will be 1 2 3 and 4. So this is the Lewis structure of phosphorus. Now let's calculate the formal charge of phosphorus and oxygen and see whether the charge, overall charge, is okay, and therefore we can say that this is the closest correct structure of phosphate ion. So let's calculate the formal charge. So again over here, phosphorus, let's take phosphorus over here. Phosphorus again has an expanded octet. So again, if you look at the structure, we have 3 single bond and 1 double bond. That means it has more than 8 electrons. So again, it's possible because phosphorus has comes in group 15, and it also has an expanded octet. So let's take phosphorus, and number of valence electron in phosphorus is 5, and then negative minus number of lone electrons or lone electrons in lone pair. So again over here, if we look at it, how many lone pairs? No lone pairs. So 0 plus half the number of bounding electrons. So how many bounding electrons are there? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So 10 over here. So 5 minus 5 equals to 0. So the formal charge of phosphorus is 0. Now again over here, let's mark the oxygen as oxygen 1, oxygen 2, oxygen 3 and oxygen 4. Oxygen 1, 2, 3 are similar because they all have single bond. So if we find out oxygen 1, so the other two will be equal, and the fourth one is double bond, so that will be different. So let's take oxygen 1. Oxygen 1, again the number of valence electron is 6 minus, now the electrons in lone pair 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 plus half the number of bounding electrons. So there are 2, so 2. So 6 minus 7 equals to minus 1. So oxygen number 1 is minus 1. So oxygen 2 will also be minus 1 because it has a similar structure bond over there, and oxygen 3 will also be minus 1. So overall that's minus 3. Now let's see what oxygen 4, formal charge of oxygen 4 will be. So then we can confirm, or we can say that the closest correct structure, Lewis structure of phosphate is PO4 3 minus, and the structure that I have drawn. So let's see if oxygen, the fourth oxygen is correct. So 6 number of valence electron minus, open a bracket, number of electrons in lone pair. So how many electrons are there in lone pair? There are 4 electrons in lone pair plus half the number of bonding electrons. So bonding electrons 1 2 3 4 4 over there. So 6 minus 6 equals to 0. So oxygen number 4 is also 0. The formal charge of oxygen 4 is 0. So overall charge is minus 3. So this structure of PO4 with a double bond, 1 double bond and 3 single bond, and having a overall charge of 3 minus is closest correct structure, Lewis structure of phosphate ion. I hope you have understood it.